What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! So let's talk about this shit. We talked about it the last time that you were on, which is, what in the fuck is wrong with California, Mark? What is going on? So where is...
I mean, aside from me being in it.
What in the fuck is this Gavin Newsome 28th Amendment horse shittery? I can't even... Don't even get me started. Bretzels-tastic. What is going on with this? Tell me what you think about it.
I mean, he's a magician. He took a surplus windfall and turned it into like a multi-billion-dollar deficit. I mean, it's hard to make that much money disappear so fast. But in terms of, what we're here to discuss, he's doing what he does, and it's not him alone. There's senators and assembly people writing these things that are just out to attack gun rights every which way, as much as they can. And there's groups like us, and like, you got to give credit where credit's due. CRPA is big on challenging these things. You see FPC coming in every now and again, the Second Amendment Foundation. You have a lot of groups that are here filing the lawsuits that need to get filed. One thing that is nice is that we as a group are now being part of that. We were named as a plaintiff in the latest challenge to California's SB2 concealed carry restrictions. At first stayed that law, and it's still in the appellate court. But they haven't stopped there. California keeps losing on the constitutional issues here, and they say we're going to keep banging our head against the wall. So I guess I'll go into some of the things that we're seeing that are new. Aside from SB2, I think everyone, if you don't know what SB2 was, California tried to restrict concealed carry to basically like one public sidewalk in the city somewhere that wasn't near anything. I don't know. It basically anywhere you went, there was restrictions. You couldn't take it in parking lots, religious buildings, et cetera, et cetera. I won't bore you with all the details because we're challenging that. Even, it's funny. I talked to the security guards at the federal courthouse the other day. And even the police and the security guards, they all hate that law because unlike most California laws, it didn't exempt the police. And so they hate it too. California is great about, no guns for you, but guns for me. And that includes the police. SB2, and I'll tell you a little bit of detail. SB2 created a way, and this might not be a terrible thing, but created a way to decommission police officers and take away even a police officer's right to possess a firearm. And so I was looking at some of that before this call, and it's basically for things like misconduct, mental health issues, to give the law enforcement agencies a way to manage, basically cops that shouldn't be owning guns. So I don't know how I feel yet, one way or another, as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably a good thing. I think police officers should be subject to the same laws non-police officers are subject to. So to the extent that it levels the playing field that way, I don't see it as a bad thing. But like I said, we were part of the challenge to that, and that is in the appellate court right now. Is already ruled unconstitutional. But California didn't stop there. Last year they imposed an 11% excise tax, but not on gun owners. It was on the stores that sell ammo and gun parts and guns. But of course, corporate America makes sure that all gets passed down to the consumer. That will take place July 1st of this year. So we'll have a nice 11% bump in cost of living here in California as it comes to gun rights. But it gets even crazier. Let me get into some of this.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So in no particular order, AB 3067 was just announced on the 16th, so just 3 days ago. They're trying to get a law in that if you own guns, no, let me back up. Insurance companies now have to ask you whether you own firearms and whether they're in your home or your car. The law is purported to make sure people are storing them safely, but it requires basically insurance companies to collect information from people that own firearms, and it has to be a separate question asked in any application. Of course, this is a proposed law, hasn't been passed yet. And of course, it doesn't stop there. Insurance companies then have to report annually to the Department of Insurance, how many guns are out there and where they're being stored, etc. So that's definitely a very offensive law, and I think it violates California's own constitution because we have a right to privacy in California. So now insurance companies are asking us about guns and such. And a lot of people already report what firearms they have because, in order to have an insurance for a thing, you have to identify what it is. But this now mandates that you do it even if you don't want that insurance, just to insure your home. And then SB 1253 was just proposed on the 15th. And this law amends the penal code. Make sure I got my laws straight here. This is the FSC one. So in California, you already have to have a firearm safety certificate to purchase any gun or transfer a gun. It's the easiest test you'll ever take. It's like, which way is up? Really, really, really easy test. It's really just a nuisance more than, anything else. Although I guess some people do fail it every now and again. But apparently you could just retake it right away and learn from your mistakes. I don't know. I don't know why they even have it. But anyhow, this law, proposed law, would require you to have at all times a valid firearm safety certificate. And so I'm a little unclear the way it's written, whether that means if I go to the range, I have to have my certificate on me at all times, because it says you will be in possession of it at all times. So it's like part of my driver's license. I just have to have it anytime I have my gun out. I don't know, but that's what it sounds like. But now you have to renew it annually. So now this is another fee play here. So now Californians, if this law passed, would have to pay this fee annually and renew their firearm safety certificate. It would require the DOJ to remind you when your certificate's going to expire and all that. So it's a lot of cost both to the state and to gun owners. I just don't see the benefit. They purport, the writer of the law purports that this will help make sure that people know how to use guns safely and things like that. But if you have to have the certificate to buy the gun, I don't know why you need to renew it just to keep the gun. But that's what this law is about. One thing it does do that doesn't already happen is people who come into the state then now have to get an FSC. That requirement didn't apply to people moving to California unless they, of course, bought or sold a firearm once they got here. Another one, SB 1160 was just proposed by our Mr. Portantino. People in California know Senator Portantino because he's the one who writes a majority of these laws that keep getting struck down. This one basically is a straight registration. He wants to create an annual registration of firearms. You have to register your firearm and renew that registration every year, and again, pay a fee. So you'll get the sense from California's laws is they're less about whatever they're about. It's more about making it more expensive to own guns. And who does that affect? Poor people. If you're rich, fees doesn't affect you. A lot of these also exempt firearms agencies, but I am seeing more of these are now. They'll exempt the firearms agency, but then exempt the exemption as to the personal firearms of like a police officer or a firefighter or something like that. So now they're targeting these police officers on their personal stash of firearms without targeting the agency itself, which I guess is a little bit more fair. But again, I'd like to see these laws apply to everybody, because if it can't apply to a police officer, why should it apply to me? So that's a short, hopefully, recap of what's coming in California.
Well, so let me ask you this question. How much of these laws and the general policy approach in California, how much is that based upon facts related to the efficacy of these laws for affecting the problem that they're trying to affect, which is to reduce gun-related negatives. How much of these proposals have to do with the facts that they believe that they're going to stop or deter certain behaviors or prohibit certain behaviors, and how much is it about other things? If you had a hip shot estimate of how much it has to do with facts versus these things are about something else.
Yeah, generally when a law is proposed, they have a little bit of, they call it the Legislative Council's Digest, where they summarize what the law does and the basis for it. And a lot of times, if there was a statistical reason for it, they would explain that. But in the laws that I just talked about, none of them say anything other than just generic, well, we want to keep track of gun ownership or, stuff like that. It doesn't even give like a public safety reason or statistic why this it needs to happen or how it's going to make anyone safer. So California is even getting lazy on that. They used to care. They used to try to justify their laws. Now they're just saying, well, here's what we want to do and here's how we're doing it. We're not going to tell you why. I don't think there are statistics, or if there are, I haven't seen them about do these laws work or is there even an intent that they work? Obviously, registering guns, I don't see how that makes anyone safer. It does. I guess I could see how law enforcement agencies can now use that to identify gun owners and go after them. It certainly gives the DOJ more information than they can publicly release accidentally, like they did. I'm still mad about that because my information's out there because the California Attorney General decided to just publicize basically everything, my address, probably my social security number, everything, anyone who got a CCW. And so it's like a nice shopping list for criminals. Luckily that hasn't turned into anything real yet, at least in my life, but I'm sure it's not pleasant knowing that information was out there for any amount of time publicized. So that's the danger with these kind of registry kind of things is, we're going to make you tell us everything about you and where you keep your guns and how they're stored. And, but it's only for law enforcement purposes until we accidentally release it to everybody.
I think people need to realize that a lot of what happens with policy getting passed has to do with things other than facts. There's a lot of political what's called embedding that happens. So if there's a grander goal and grander platform goals, that just getting something passed that has the same value system as the rest of the gun control platform, as long as it's in congruence with those values, it's a win for them. It doesn't really matter. It's symbolic. It doesn't really matter if it actually has effect on perhaps a gun-related negative, but any kind of a win is a win. So they are trying to embed as many of these victories as they can, because whether I would say a lot of them are consciously doing it, it's a part of the political play. But I also think a lot of representatives and politicians don't even know that this is what's up. They just are lemmings and they follow along with whatever happens. But there's a lot of, in cases, in my opinion, in California, when you have what I would call hyper Lexus or so much law that's trying to be passed, there's a lot of embedding happening. They're just trying to get these symbolic wins, and that's going to help them get other wins. And I think a lot of people think that these laws are getting passed because there's proof that they work. But there isn't a lot of proof. There's a lot of belief that these things will have an effect, but there isn't a lot of proof that they have an effect. And so the discerning person should be very interested in asking the question, is this law proven? Do we know that this law is going to actually do what's purported? And in a lot of cases in politics, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a disparate impact that these laws are having. Again, it's like, if you're well-to-do, fine. Maybe this has a minimal effect on you, just a few more dollars. But there's a huge portion of California that they're trying to get out of the gun world by just making it too expensive. But really all it does is okay, I'm going to go to Nevada and do my business there. You're not supposed to do that. And I'm not admitting that I ever did that. But a lot of people are just like, well, I'm just not going to buy from California-based businesses. And that's a win for California too, right? Because if they drive the people out of California, then that drives the business out of California. Because then, my friends, that own their mom and pop FFL aren't going to be able to stay open because all their customers are shopping cheaper outside of California.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways that California is trying to get rid of guns in general. It's not just straight out making them illegal. It's just making them harder to obtain, attacking the source, like the gun stores, making it harder for them to do business. And I see it because I'm an attorney and I have clients that are in that industry. And I see their struggles. And I see it's not just the state, it's the local municipalities, that are making it harder for them to do business. Making it more expensive. It's an all-out attack. People only see these laws like the ones we just went over, and like you said, they're mostly symbolic. But what they do is it just makes people not want to buy here, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to own them here. California's falling into that trap where if you ban it, it'll go away. But this country has proven that doesn't work multiple times. It just makes people go underground. A lot of us have 3D printers. And it's not that hard to print things. I'm not saying I do. I don't. I don't have that technical skill yet. But there are people out there that do that, and it's just going to create more and more of that. The more expensive you make it, the harder it is for the average Joe to defend themselves. They're still going to do it. It's a counter objective to what California's trying to do.
There are a number of things that the conservatives say about us that are just horse shit, right? They try to label liberalism as a mental illness and other things along these lines. But there are also ways that conservatives have us pinned down pretty good, because I think liberals think that we're see-through or we're not see-through. Like we don't involve ourselves in horse shit, and we do. We definitely do. Both sides do, but we definitely do. And one of the things that I try not to abide is the whole California thing, right? I try not to see any value in that. Right up until Gavin Newsome comes up with the idea for the 28th Amendment. This idea is so fucking bad. It is so out of touch with what's real, right? It doesn't have any real connection to using the law to mitigate firearms related negatives, which is something I'm interested in. You're interested in. People are interested in it, right? They want to see what we can do that's reasonable and effective. But holy Christ, the 28th Amendment idea, it is so fucking bad. That it puts me in league now with the conservatives that are like, California. Now, I'm not going to say California, but whatever level of Bretzely crazy they're talking about, that's what this 28th Amendment idea is. It is fucking out to lunch. So is anybody talking about it, Mark? Are you guys just shaking your head that's just fucking crazy?
It's a purely symbolic thing. Newsome is over here. He's using it as a political step. He's trying to make the gun issue his thing, right? He wants to be the leader of let's ban guns in the country. And so that's what the 28th proposed amendment is. It's not even defined as to how they want to achieve this or what it is. It's, things like, let's implement universal background checks. It's like, okay, we don't need a constitutional amendment to do that. But, He wanted something that he could say, look, here's how I want to change the country. And that's what this amendment is. But nobody here talks about it. We know it's BS. And like most of the things that come out of his mouth. So we don't pay it much mind. It doesn't have any practical effect because I think even he knows that this is just something that will never pass. I don't even know if he would want it to pass. He wanted to put something out there so crazy to show that he's the leader in this area to get votes. At least he thinks that'll get him votes.
The other thing that I've noticed too, that I've noticed it from looking at what's going on in Colorado with the assault weapons ban proposed there, and then looking at the assault weapons ban that passed in Illinois, they are really trying to get the semi-automatic rifle defined as an unlawful arm. That is definitely, now we kind of knew that, right? before, but in the wording now, they want it. They're trying to define. They want to be able to define the semi-automatic rifle as not protected by the Constitution, as definitively not reasonable for the average person. Have you been seeing some of that too? Like there's a definite in the language directly going after the definition now, and I didn't see that before.
Okay, so yeah, Colorado, they've been going back and forth on, proposing some pass, some don't pass, gun laws. They brought back, like you said, the assault weapons ban, and I know there's a lot of strong opposition to that. But it's the same thing you see around the country. They're trying to define what it is, get it out of the constitutional protection, and then ban it. I don't see how that's going to be possible. California's tried that a bunch. We do have an assault weapons ban in California, but yet we still have semi-auto firearms. I think when they're going to reach a limit, I've seen even in Congress, I think somebody was talking about a bill that's put forward to get rid of semi-auto guns by making gas-operated firearms illegal. Let's attack the mechanism. So that's what you're saying. We can't take the gun away constitutionally, but maybe we take away the thing that makes the gun work.
Yeah.
So I think you're seeing that there, and in Maine, and there's this, and obviously in California, it's like, let's take away what makes a gun, and say, sure, you can have your AR-15 as long as it's not, gas blowback. You can have your semi-auto handgun as long as it doesn't work, but or at least not well. There are other ways to make the gun work, but it doesn't work as well. So I think
a lot of people out who are listening, the reason why I brought that up is because this is kind of something that we knew was kind of being implied, but now they're directly going after the definition, and they want the definition of the semi-automatic rifle to be constitutionally unlawful. That's what they want. Those are the words that they want. That it is not legitimately protected by the Constitution. Of course, there's been a gray area there for a while and a debate over that, but they're specifically choosing words now so that at the level of the Constitution of the United States, it is just an unlawful item mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that. I mean, they already passed laws about waiting periods and red flag laws, and you're seeing that more and more as you see, unfortunately, as you see mass shootings happen. We've talked about knee-jerk reactions, and that's what you're seeing is knee-jerk reactions to these events, because the politicians have to be seen as doing something, even if it's not the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's the constitutionality issue here, and then there's what's in the other hand, which is, I don't think any of us want people dying from guns. It's not good for 2A. We don't want mass shootings. It's not good for gun rights for mass shootings to happen. We don't want any gun, let alone the AR-15 or the AK or any semi-automatic rifle. We don't want those in the hands of the wrong people, period. The whole debate, I think, amongst reasonable people is how do you accomplish that without an outright ban? How do you stop the wrong people from getting these implements, these tools? And that is a very difficult question to answer.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer.
And, you and I come at it from a different perspective than the people trying to ban the guns. Obviously, there's a reason people are using guns out there and committing these crimes. It's not because they have a gun. It's because they have the intent to do it. The mass shooter doesn't go, "Hey, I have a gun. Let me go use it." They have serious problems. The guy in Maine, for instance, was a reservist for the Army that they knew had mental health problems. I read an article that the police actually went to check on him 2 weeks before this, knocked on the door, he didn't answer, and they said, "Okay, whatever," and they left. And then this mass shooting happens. Do you think that guy would have just not done the mass shooting because he didn't have a gun? He was intent on violence. Lady in Texas in Houston, her own kid was there. She had mental issues, and so that's why we come and we talk about mental health. And that's why we need social services, and we need better ways to to treat people, to provide therapy, and things like that. I'm not saying that's the answer, the be all answer, and there's no be all answer. There's not one solution that's going to solve everybody's intent to do harm to another human being. We're humans, like things happen, but ideas get in people's heads, and they act on them sometimes, unfortunately. And it's not just them; it's also suicides. People who are intent on killing themselves don't do it just because they have the gun. Now, I understand the argument on the other side is, oh, well, it just makes it easier for them to do it, or they can harm more people because of this. It's like, if they want to drive a van through a crowd of 100 people, or start spraying bullets into them, the effect is there. And you can't outlaw vans. You can't, it's not going to do anything. You still see, mass stabbings in some of the Asian countries. They don't have guns, and they still can kill multiple people before they can get stopped. And you see people, like I said, you can ban them. People can make them. It's not that hard. I've heard guns referenced as just a bunch of springs that you activate. It's just, that's all they are. They're springs and the things that hold the spring in, and then they're basically just glorified slingshots. So people will find a way. So how we address it is addressing the root cause of why they're doing the thing. Why are they being violent? What is causing this in our society? And so if more resources were put into that, I think we'd see a bigger effect faster than all the millions and billions of dollars of these unconstitutional laws trying to ban, these objects.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I say outwardly. I hope that people catch. I don't support an assault weapons ban. I don't support that. But if you're going to be a person that goes after that, go ahead. Go after it. But stop treating gun control like it's prime prevention for these problems. A lot of people want to, I saw some of the responses to what happened in, what was the shooting at the football game in Kansas City, right? And so you have people coming out in the news saying, can we pass the correct policy and let's stop this so we can basically get back to living our lives? And that whole statement is the problem. First and foremost, in mass shootings, there is no road to you just not doing anything and the government is going to do something and solve it. With mass shootings, that's an all hands on deck. Everybody is going to have to change how they live and do things in order for mass shootings to be mitigated. But people don't want that. They want to put the government and policy and laws in a place where these entities have powers that they simply will never have. They will not stop mass shootings, right? Gun control will not stop mass shootings. So if people want to do gun control, okay, do it second. Do it third. I don't agree with you, but go after behavioral intervention first. Go after understanding what needs to happen in your home, in the community, in the church, in the school, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all hands on deck, bottom up, top down, but at least let's start with giving up this bullshit that policy is a panacea or gun control is prime prevention. It's based on bullshit. And every time Joe Biden stands up there and pimps it, he's not leading the country. He's leading us in the wrong direction. I just want people to get that part of it. If you can do that and then you want to go against the assault weapons ban, I don't agree with you, but go ahead. What can I do to stop you? Just stop being a moron.
Right. And, when the left starts to lose that debate on the mental health and the right is the one that starts to actually do something about mental health, you're going to see a change in the country. If the right were to drop the abortion thing, if they were to lighten up on that, this country wouldn't see a Democratic anything ever. It'd just be Republican. Because I think that's the one big issue that the right has that the left hates. I mean, there's other things, obviously, but that's our big issue. That's one of the big reasons I don't vote that way, is because I want that choice there, the medical procedure when it's necessary, but you're starting to see and hear more Republican politicians talk about addressing mental health in this country, which is great. I want that to be a topic but what concerns me is it's not coming from our side. we're usually the side that says, hey, let's do something about the negatives of society, and let's build that safety net and all that. In California, the government says, oh, okay, all illegal immigrants get free health care, which I'm like, I get that. But what happened to the rest of us? Where's my free healthcare? Why are you singling out one group of people that don't pay taxes to give them healthcare? And I get it. It's a safety net. It's we don't want people dying in our hospitals, but why only them? If you're gonna do it, make it for everybody, or make it income based. Like why is it only for that group? For political reasons. That's why it's to show that you're doing something politically. But they should be, you would think, they say, hey, California should be able to boast how it has the best mental health services, or social services are great, but they don't. They're terrible. Social services in California are ridiculously bad. A kid, without parents or being taken away or whatever, there's no support. And then you wonder, oh, why do these people grow up hating life? Like, because life was bad to them. You need to fix that. We need to fix that as a society. And to your point, Randy, a lot of it is individual responsibility. We want to put everything on the government. Government has to fix all my problems. But people like, what can I do as an individual to change what's happening in this country? It's like, well, change your views. Stop being about all me, which is easy to do when you can order something on Amazon and have it delivered the next day. Whatever I want, I have it. It becomes a mindset, a way of life. Me first, you second. And I'm not saying that has to necessarily change where you put somebody else before yourself, but you still have to think of other people like you think of yourself or your family. I see a lot of people who are like, well, I'm right, and people who aren't like me are bad, or their opinion isn't as worth as much as my opinion on this issue. We need to back away from the selfishness, and then you'll start to see some change.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up Amazon. I can't imagine a worse mechanism for selfishness than what happens with the internet and people's brains. And this is why I'm not hopeful that, at least in the short term, we're going to be seeing any kind of change. Like, humans just have to go into such a painful experience for them to change dramatically. And it's like we need to pull our head out of our ass and get back to collective action, and being aware of our neighborhood and our surroundings. But people are going in the opposite direction. They're just devoting more and more time to being online. And I think in the end, that's one of the biggest variables here, particularly with mass shootings, is there's a disconnection that's happening, and it's fed by too much time online, by people not being out on the grass and meat space, doing things in their community. I don't see how you address, again, pass this all weapons ban, knock yourself out. But if we don't get it on out in the real world and connect again, we're never going to get to the heart of mass shootings. We're never going to do it. Do you have any, so we're running up towards the end here. Do you have any other last thoughts that you want to share on the reality of guns, laws, Bretzels, California, fucking 28A, Gavin Newsome land, anything else?
I mean, the only thing I'd like to maybe reiterate here is for people that are listening, if you're not a member of this group, the LGO, the LGC, that's like a bare minimum that you can do to help. Just being a member, it bolsters the numbers of those groups and gives them more talking power. Why would Senator Portantino listen to me if I represent 100 people, in California? If we had just on our numbers and membership numbers, thousands of people, then yeah, okay, maybe I can come and have a seat at the table with that guy and say, hey, I see what you're trying to do. Let us work together to address the issue you're trying to address without taking away people's rights unnecessarily. So that's one thing I'd like to leave is, do that. We have events, go to them if you can. I mean, it's going to be fun. You get that social aspect, touch that grass, get out there and remember why we're doing this. We have a community. And I think, Randy, what you were saying before is people being on the internet, you lose that sense of community. Your community is just the people you know online. You don't even know their faces or their real names in some cases. It's like you need to change that in your life, and I think it'll make for a better life in general when you have that support group. You know, if I have a problem, I can call Randy. I've met him. We've hung out. If I have a problem, anyone can call. You guys can call me anytime, and I'm here for you. A lot of my members know that. They call me about, someone in Florida was calling me because they had a car accident. They didn't know what to do. And I'm like, well, I'm not licensed in Florida, but I calm them down and help them out. So the internet is good in that sense because, I've met people that way, and it's even better when you meet them in person.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see how anything gets better if people just are like, I like guns. Look at this new one. I got another gun. Hey guys, look at this new one. And they're just on the internet and that's it.
Guns is a status symbol, right? Look at my car. Look at my house. Here's my gun.
Yeah. We're not going to move forward. Nothing is going to move forward unless people just start breaking those habits and getting involved. And if you can't get out and do stuff, then there's $12 a year for the LGC, and there's $5 a month for LGO. Just kick the money. We'll go do stuff. Kick the money. I don't have the money for that, Randy, but I just watched you buy 4 fucking guns this year that you don't fucking shoot. And then you bought $400 worth of plastic Nerf gun bullshit for your kids that you also don't need. $5 Are you kidding me? Like, it can make a huge difference. So to piggyback on the Mark, I say it a lot. If you can't move your feet and do stuff, just kick some fucking cheese, man. It really doesn't take much.
Yeah, we can't do what we do without, the financial support. And so before you say, hey, why isn't the LGO doing this? Or why isn't the LGC doing that? Like, ask yourself, well, when's the last time I donated money to that group other than my base membership dues? When's the last time I went to an event or volunteered to help lead something? Because it helps. Every little bit helps.